Going right into part three, but I did have to say I had to change the lighting. The fluorescent lighting was not good for anyone. Don't believe everything you think. Part three, if you don't know where we are, two and one, I did put them in a playlist. They are a byproduct of a state of being, not a state of thinking. We'll go into depth about this in the next chapter. For now, let's do a quick thought experiment. I'll ask you a question, and all you need to do is be aware of what you're experiencing, and we'll review what happened afterward. What is the dream amount of money you would like to make in a year? Pause here and wait for an answer to surface. Go ahead and pause. Give yourself about 30 to 60 seconds to think about your answer and how much money you want to make in a year. Don't move on to the next step until you've had a decently sized train of thought about how much money you want to make. Now, take that amount and multiply it by 5. What do you think about this new dream goal and your income when we multiply it by 5? Take at least 30 to 60 seconds to become aware of your feelings when you think about them and see what overthinking comes up for you as you feel your emotions. Don't move on till you've done the above. Okay, let's bring it back and review what happened. After I asked the first question about the dream amount of money you want to make per year, an answer popped into your mind within a few seconds. That is a thought. Notice how quickly and effortlessly it came to you. After an answer popped into your mind, I asked you to think about your answer. What happened once I asked you to think about your answer? If you're like most people, you probably went into a wild roller coaster once you began thinking about the thought. You might have been thinking how there's no way you can make that much. No one in your family is making that much money. You don't know how to make that much. It's stupid to want to make money or that it makes you greedy. Notice how you felt when you were thinking about those thoughts. Most likely it didn't feel that great, but that is okay, and I'll show you what you can do about it soon. This is a prime example of thoughts versus thinking. If I ask you a question, you will 100% have a thought that pops into your mind. Thoughts are not inherently bad. They are intrinsically neutral. The moment we think about our thoughts is when we begin to get taken on an emotional roller coaster. When we think about our thoughts, we begin to judge and criticize the thoughts and experience all sorts of internal emotional turmoil. When I asked you how much you want to make, you had a thought about the amount. The thought was neutral and didn't cause an emotional toil. You might have felt expansive and excited. It was only when you began thinking about that thought of how much you wanted to make, which is what caused the self doubt, unworthiness, anxiety, anger, guilt, or any other emotion you might have experienced. This is what I mean by thinking is the root of our suffering. The initial thought of how much you wanted to make didn't cause any suffering until you began thinking about the thought of how much you wanted to make. It is not necessary to think about our thoughts or to judge them. It does us no good to do so. We may think that our thinking is helping us. This is what I mean by thinking is the root of our suffering. The initial thought of how much you wanted to make didn't cause any suffering until you began thinking about the thought of how much you wanted to make. It is not necessary to think about our thoughts or to judge them. It does us no good to do so. We may think that thinking is helping us, but all it's doing is causing us to feel all these negative, unwanted emotions and making us create reasons why we can't do it or why we shouldn't want it. The only useful and helpful thing was the initial thought that popped into your mind when I first asked how much you wanted to make. All the thinking that happened after was destructive and unhelpful. Thoughts create, thinking destroys. The reason thinking destroys is because as soon as we begin to think about the thoughts, we cast our own limiting beliefs, judgments, criticisms, programming, and conditioning onto the thought, thinking of infinite reasons as to why we can't do it and why we can't have it. Without thinking, we prevent all negative programming and judgments from tarnishing the initial thought of what we want to create. If I asked you what are some ways you could make the amount of money you want, if you sat there long enough, you'll experience the same phenomenon of having random thoughts pop into your head of ways you could make it happen. These are thoughts of creation. Thoughts have the qualities of being infinite and expansive and feel energetically aligned with you. You'll know you have thoughts from the divine when you feel positive emotions, lighter and alive. As soon as you begin thinking about those thoughts of the ways you can make the money you want, you'll immediately feel heavy, restricted, and limited, along with a whole onslaught of negative emotions. This is how you'll know if you're thinking. I use my feelings as an internal radar that tells me whether I'm getting direct downloads of thoughts from the universe or if I'm in my head thinking about my thoughts. You can only ever feel what you're thinking, so feelings and emotions are like an intuitive internal dashboard that tells me if I'm overthinking. If I have many negative emotions, I know I'm thinking too much. This is another example of how we're naturally built for success. On the next page is a chart that compares thinking versus thoughts to help you identify which one is which within your mind. It is helpful to go through a few examples of thoughts in your mind and using the chart to identify if it is an actual thought or if it is thinking. Meet me on part 4. Thank you for listening to me read. I enjoyed it. I hope you did as well. Go ahead and share this out. It might help somebody, and click that link